The world is a spindle, and it's being used by a goddess who is spinning yarn from the light of the stars, and her lantern is the sun. The world will come to an end once her yarn is done. At the end of the Holding Breath video, I mentioned panels made of ebony wood. This made me wonder about the flora and the fauna of the windless zones, and about what sorts of crops the inhabitants might cultivate. There is a species of ebony native to New Guinea, so I'm going to steal all the other flora and fauna as well. And New Guinea is an especially interesting place, because it's one of the parts of the world where agriculture was invented, rather than being imported from somewhere else. There is evidence of taro cultivation in New Guinea going back 10,000 years, and there's a whole bunch of crops that were domesticated in that part of the world. The spindle and the lantern are static in relation to one another, except for when the spindle wobbles a bit and there's a sudden variation in temperature. But as the windless areas are pretty much giant greenhouses that are insulated with magic rather than glass or plastic, the temperatures there are always very steadily warm, and it's a good place to grow tropical crops. I want the society to have a system of dual unilineal inheritance, and in the real world these tend to be quite simple, with maybe land being inherited through the male line and cattle being inherited through the female line. But I want it to be more complicated, so I will combine it with a very strong gender division of labor. The men of the windless zones cultivate sago palms and extract sago starch. They also cultivate coconut palms and harvest coconut fruit, and make cords and rope and such from coconut fiber, and also make palm wine. They also cultivate sugarcane, and cane juice can be brewed into alcohol as well. They also keep bees for the honey, and raise fish in ponds, and catch fruit bats, and gather palm weevil grub which can be roasted and eaten, and they gather pandanus fruit, and make marita sauce. The women cultivate bananas and spin the stem fiber of the banana plant and weave banana silk. They also cultivate kudzu for the starchy roots and vines that can be used to weave baskets, and the inner fibers of the vines can be woven into a kudzu fabric, which is great to wear in hot and humid weather, so it's perfect for people living inside giant greenhouses. Women also cultivate taro, purple yams, and leafy greens, and also a plant that produces spicy berries and can be used in cooking much like pepper, and they harvest and cook breadfruit and breadnut, and grow a miscellaneous assortment of fruit. And the people of the windless zones don't own land, they own specific palms, specific bushes, specific fish ponds, and so on. Land is commonly owned, the question is in whether your family can muster up the labor to cultivate it. So let's have a simplified example of how inheritance works. Let's say that you are a woman and your parents have just died. You have inherited a whole bunch of banana trees from your mom, and as you don't have a brother, you have inherited your dad's fish pond as well. The bananas you can deal with yourself, and those will be inherited by your children as they are passed down the female line. The fish pond will be looked after by your husband, or your son, or your slaves and servants. And if you don't have any of those, then some male member of your paternal line will take some of the fish for himself in exchange for taking care of that pond. And because this fish pond is being inherited through the male line, your children cannot lay any claim to it. For an heir, you can choose among your father's nephews. And if you are a man who inherited some banana trees from your mom, then it's the same story but with the genders reversed. The bananas will be cultivated by your wife, or your daughter, or a servant, or some relation from your mother's side of the family. And those banana trees will not be inherited by your children, but they will inherit your fish pond, and your beehives, and your coconut trees, and whatever else you may own that passes through the male line. I guess you could ask, why doesn't everyone just do whatever? But at that point you are asking about why the gender division of labor ever develops at all, and this question is too big for this video. But what if you are a man who exclusively does women's things? Then in this society, you're a woman now. Women's work is done by women, and the one who does women's work is a woman. And men's work is done by men, so the one who does men's work is a man. Finally, because of how inheritance works, it makes sense for people to live close to both the members of their maternal line and the members of their paternal line. So I think that natal-local residence makes sense. In cultures with that residence pattern, people tend to live in small towns rather than scattering out, so it's easy to find a spouse that lives nearby and easy to visit them on a daily basis. And as the offspring of such a couple, you live with your mother and her line, but your father and the members of his line are all your neighbors. And if you are a boy, you'll hang around your mother until you turn 7 years old, and then you'll start doing men's work together with your father, while your sisters do women's work with your mother. So that's all I've got for the windless zones for now, but we might visit them again.